Well, it's December the 31st, New Year's Eve, so kind of like my final video for the year, I guess. And we've had a pretty crazy year, I guess, with everything, the COVID and the election and so forth. So again, I should mention up front here that if you like these videos, remember to subscribe and give me a like because that'll be very helpful here to get this going. And so let's get into it a little bit. I guess the whole issue of the $2,000 plus up, that is for the stimulus checks, has really ran into a complete mess. This is a pretty example, I think, of the Republicans. When I'll count Trump, I'll count McConnell, uh, both in this, is that they're not coordinating effectively, in my opinion. I mean, it seems to me all they've done is give the Democrats an issue and haven't gotten any extra aid there. I mean, they needed to game this thing out before they went public. It would have been kind of helpful probably if the Senate candidates in Georgia had been cued in and recommended doing it first if you're going to go there with this subject. Or pick a plausible amount, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on. I think everybody tries to assume there's some ulterior motive. And I think it's just Trump being Trump and Congress being Congress, and that's just the way they act. That's kind of my viewpoint. One thing I did run into here, which I think is kind of significant here today, is that I started seeing some stuff on Twitter this morning along with something about boycott the Georgia vote or something. And that should be understood by everybody that this is basically a Democrat initiative. Whoever these people are don't have the interests of the Republican Party, conservative movements, or even Donald Trump at all in their interest at this point. I'm somewhat suspicious of this Lynn Wood, who keeps throwing out wild accusations against everybody, including the Chief Justice and everything else. I think he's got away from this thing about voting. But the thing is, you should vote if you're in Georgia, and particularly if you're a Republican. If you're a Democrat, don't vote. That's all right, unless you're going to vote for us. In that case, you can go ahead. But my point is that this is nonsense. This one idiot was on there saying, well, the whole idea if Republicans don't vote, the algorithm will actually come up with a negative vote for GOP. First of all, it isn't counted by who's GOP or not. It's just votes. That's the way it'll be portrayed. It's completely ridiculous. If they are using an algorithm, they'll stop the count in the middle of the night and change the algorithm if it's going the wrong way. That's the whole idea of the algorithm. It's the stupidest thing. So that's why I said this is obviously a Democrat trying to cause trouble. So don't listen to any of this nonsense. Go out and vote. The whole strategy is simply to come up with so many votes that the fraudulent vote can't possibly make up for it. Now, the thing you have to remember, that the evidence to date indicates the real problem with the Dominion machines fundamentally isn't somebody nefariously using the internet to change the votes. The problem that's come up with is adjudication. That something like a majority of ballots in Fulton County were adjudicated. Well, that means you can change the votes during adjudication, you see. So the problem isn't that the machine does it, it's people doing it. The problem is fake votes, people from out of state that are not eligible to vote voting, people that don't really exist voting, dead people voting, if you will. People that obviously are fraudulent because their residence is at the UPS store or something of that sort. That's obviously not living in a UPS store. These are the problems. It's not the machines going wild or some internet hack. I don't think that's at all what's going on overall. To say there have been issues where the machines have glitched, yes. Have there been cases where it was used? Possibly. But it's not the main issue, and I don't think it's the main issue in Georgia. Plus, there's a tremendous amount of focus on watching this election. So the real problem is simply a question of who gets out their vote, and that's what's important here. And again, remember that this is all about the big issue of who controls the body and stopping the Schumer's initiative to change the rules and change the system. I mean, if they weren't threatening to change the system, this thing wouldn't be quite as big an issue as it's become. Up to now, nobody has had the arrogance to even propose such a thing, seriously, let's say. I mean, more junior people have talked about it, but I guess Trump has talked about it. Well, but let's not get into that. But the point is that when you actually have the ranking member of the Senate saying if he's made majority leader, he's going to rig the system and try to rig the Supreme Court system in order to create the outcome they want, and therefore not a constitutional outcome. I think that's a perfect reason to go out and vote for the Republicans to block that. Everything else is secondary to this issue, really. So that's kind of my. I think that you look at the polling, it's pretty close to even. The last Trafalgar came in somewhat adverse for us, which had been really the one that was most positive. My own opinion is that poll was taken during Christmas vacation weekend periods, and probably there was probably a lot of the Republican voters were involved with family activities, let's say, rather than answering polls, and that may have skewed the poll. The other possibility is all the kerfuffle over the $2,000 affected it in some way. And I don't know how that's going to affect it. I mean, right now it's kind of an impasse, which is the worst possible situation as I see it. It'd been better it never been brought up for our point of view, or secondarily, if it was brought up to have been passed. But to leave it as a battle within the Republican Party, with every Democrat being for it, doesn't seem to me to be a helpful thing at all. Sometimes I wonder how I'm better at thinking about this stuff than the people who are actually doing it in Washington are. I mean, but anyhow. And I don't know, maybe this is I mean, I could easily believe that Trump believed he had the master plan to win, and McConnell completely disagreed with him. I think that could be very well all that happened. There was no ulterior motive on anybody's part at all, and now their egos have got locked into it again, as usual. So, anyhow, that's that. And beyond the Georgia situation, I guess we're still looking forward to January the 6th, and I guess Senator Hawley from Missouri is going to join with Mo Brooks of the House in Alabama to challenge and maybe there's some other House members as well, to challenge these various electoral colleges. I've already gone through that before, how that kind of works. There's been some wild thoughts that somehow, the problem is that ultimately the vote will come down to a vote where to change and reject any of these certified electors, you have to have a separate vote positive in both the House and the Senate. And the problem is the House is not going to vote that way. It's that simple. So all the Senate can do is drag out the process for a period of time, but ultimately the answer is a foregone conclusion. So what's really important for us now is winning the Senate seats. And I think that where I do think the challenge has merit is to raise the issue of the voter irregularities, because I do believe that the fraud was a decisive final factor in the election. And so I'm presuming post office, Trump will continue to pursue this issue. He certainly raised a bunch of money in the process. He's running a few ads now about what happened in Fulton County, Georgia. But I think beyond that, I think this is something that needs to be pursued afterwards in the legislatures. And again, controlling the Senate is essential to prevent the House Bill H.R. 1, which is going to basically mandate nationwide mail-in ballots, okay, and all kind of changes like this that we don't want. That's very critical. It also protects the court system, which will allow them to have more freedom to be objective. I think we asked one reason why the Supreme Court has been so passive in this whole thing and letting it happen is because I think they're intimidated. Not just because of riots. I mean, that's one thing. They probably are intimidated physically to some degree, of course. But the other thing is that it would increase the movement toward the idea of rigging the court system. And I'm not complete sure that every Democrat in the Senate, all 50 of them, are on board with doing that, particularly with the public backlash that would happen when they tried it. But I sure as heck don't want to take a chance on it either, so to speak. And I don't think the court does either. And I think that's one reason why they're laying low very seriously right now. And I think if we win those 2 Senate seats, they'll feel a little bit more emboldened to do what they really believe in. So that's kind of where I am on this subject at the moment. So as we come to the end of the year, let's just hope the next year is better. I mean, politically, it's probably not going to be better because we're going to have a lot of things we don't like happening, I assume. But at any rate, I'll close this for now and wish everybody a happy new year, and until the next video.